Today's special guest is Brian Bradley, Vice President of Egoscue. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thanks.
Great to have you here. I want to know, what is Egoscue?
Well, first of all, you're pronouncing it correctly, so you're one of the millions of people who get it right, but it takes usually some time. Egoscue is the last name of a gentleman named Pete Egoscue, and in 1971 he basically was trying to recover from injuries that he had in Vietnam, and basically was told the pain was in his head, so he picked up Gray's Anatomy and started studying it himself, trying to figure out what was going on with his left hip and leg, and that's how the Egoscue method was born.
And how long have you been with the company?
23 years this year.
And what is the goal or the mission of the company that distinguishes it from other health initiatives?
There's a lot of people out there that are trying to make shifts to the overall healthcare problem that we see within this country and basically worldwide. I always tell people when I'm doing talks that I want world domination, and I don't mean that militarily. This is all from the standpoint of healthcare and overall wellness, if it relates to fitness, water intake, the mindset as it relates to people's symptoms or their fitness. We always tell people, try to pull yourself through your life, not push, 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 push. Don't add another thing to your plate that just makes you more stressed and busier and not able to get done, and then your stress level goes up, and then your pain hits, and then you finally step into our office and we tell you, listen, the pain is real. It's a manifestation of the cumulative effect of what you're doing in your lifestyle. And once we can make 3 or 4 small changes and they implement the exercises, it's downhill from there.
So tell us some of the people that Egoscue has been able to support and help.
Well, multiple ex-presidents, big-time Fortune 500 CEOs and their staffs. I just don't know if I can throw them out in the air, but my sports people, currently we have Justin Tuck, who's now playing for the Raiders. And but
you can say that's preseason.
We're good then.
Yeah.
But during the the last 4 or 5 years, he had multiple symptoms going on, and he really responded well to this kind of stuff. Junior Seau was with us for, of course, we know what happened to our good friend Junior, but prior to that had been working with Egoscue for decades. John Lynch, future Hall of Famer, I just saw him in our clinic today. His whole family right now. The guy is a believer, because what happens is athletics is performed and everybody thinks it's the freak athlete that takes them to the pro level. It is, in the sense that they have a skill that nobody else has. The problem comes into play, especially in the NFL with an average 3-year career, because their body can't keep up with their talent. So basically, you've heard it before, your talent's writing checks that your body can't cash. So what we do is we give them a bigger bank account. It's a way for them to back up the Brinks truck, literally sometimes as it relates to their new contracts, but as it relates to physically, that's the thing that's going to give them longevity. And then we hear from their agents all over the country saying, thank you, keep this guy playing because I'm getting 3 to 4%.
Well, we know, again, the professional athlete is over here on this side of the equation, but it's mostly like people like myself who are the baby boomers that still think I'm 29 years old or even 19 years old and I want to go out and do certain things. Yep. What if I'm coming into your office, what are you looking at and what are you telling me?
We're basically looking at the person as a whole body. We don't look at somebody who comes in and says, I have epicondylitis, or I have rotator cuff tear, or I have degenerative hip, or chronic low back pain with degenerative disc and herniated disc and spondylolisthesis and listhesiosis, and it scares people. So what they do next is they go to Dr. Google, and then Dr. Google really scares them. So finally, when they get into our office, it's because they've been referred by one of their good friends or 10 of their good friends, or they read the Pain Free book. It's a bestseller that's out there called Pain Free by Pete Egoscue. And the book basically takes them to a mindset that says, we're going to go after problem versus symptom. So I would tell you, let's say you came in with a past rotator cuff injury that you had from skiing 10 years ago, but your shoulder's starting to really bother you, your upper back and neck are starting to bother you, and the great medical field's telling you you have degenerative disc and degenerative shoulder. Those findings are absolutely correct. What to do about it is where I think that we as a country need to get better. And what Pete Egoscue has put together and what we've helped them distribute it worldwide is to get the person to focus on the pain being a warning signal or almost a good thing. It's a privilege for you to have this pain because your body's talking to you. Now let's just shut that signal off by correcting the alignment of your body from the hip out. If your hip is in the right position and your pelvis is in the right position, everything north, south, east, and west just falls right back into place.
And we know most people just go into the gym and get on the elliptical equipment. And what is wrong with that?
Well, I have my own name for the elliptical equipment. Yeah, I call it the make your butt larger machine, because if you can picture this, picture somebody on an elliptical machine, their leg really never travels behind them. It never leaves the straight up and down position. It pulls forward toward the television screen that we're all watching. And by the way, we live in Southern California and we're on the elliptical inside a building. It just doesn't make sense. Just get outside. But the leg going behind you never happens like in a normal walk or run. And it's actually feeding the sitting posture, which your legs are always ahead of you all day long. And we all know the health benefits of sitting. There aren't any. It's shutting every system down long term, including your back, because you've taken your hips and your ankles away from the ability to shock absorb what your spine is going through. So the elliptical machine, aka the make your butt larger machine, takes your leg butt only forward and then straight up and down again. So you're missing a crucial point of your leg going behind you, where your glute and your muscles of your hip, called the, almost like the rotator cuff of your hip, have to stabilize that bone moving. And what happens is it actually creates more stress on your spine. But yet, if you talk to anybody, here's what they say. I can't run, the bike hurts me, so I went to the elliptical and I actually feel better on the elliptical. Everybody always does because there's no load bearing. It's because it's not asking for hip extension. But in the long term, it's cocooning your body into that sitting, overall deviant posture.
So again, Egoscue, and you offer a free consultation if somebody wants to come in and meet with you?
Yeah, and everybody offers a free consultation. So I know I gave you that word earlier. It's about discovery. When the person comes in, they should leave with an experience. They should be able to come in and say, I had my pictures taken, not x-rays, just photographs. Here's what my posture looks like compared to the blueprint that the body should look like. And because of that, I now know what to do, whether they got exercises from us or if they, let's say it was a financial issue. Great, go get the pain-free book from the library. You have permission, photocopy it, okay? If they complain, tell them to come to me and I'll tell them it's okay. Photocopy it and do the exercises for free out of there. Or you come into our clinics, and we have practitioners all over the country, all over the world in fact.
Well, even before we got on air today, you asked me to stand up. And what were you looking for when you had me stand up, take off my shoes, and when I in my posture?
Yep, so I ask you to stand up, take your shoes off, because remember, shoes, especially with inserts, are giving you a false sense of stability. I want you as barefoot as possible. I'd actually have you even without your socks, so your little toes could spread out, but most socks bring your toes together just like most shoes do. The idea is to get the person to stand up, close their eyes. Where do they feel the balance left to right and front to back in each foot? So I ask you those questions. You felt like you were instantly, you didn't miss a beat. You were like, it's on my right side. Sometimes when a person has to really search for it, A, they may not be kinesthetic enough to feel it, so I'm not going to ask them any more, what's it feel like question. I would go to, look at your pictures and here's what's wrong and here's how we can correct it. And by the way, when we explain to them what's wrong with their posture, we're good at telling them where the alignment should be, but we're also congratulating them, saying, you're still getting from point A to point B every day with minimal symptoms, or your body hasn't shut itself down. Even though you're this far out of alignment, that's how remarkable the human body really is. So we get them to stand up, close their eyes, where's their balance, and usually they'll give you one side or the other. Then what I was really doing was looking at your posture for a split second while you were realizing on the inside what was going on. I saw your hand position, your shoulder position, and your feet were turned out to 45 degrees. Well, we don't walk in a V, we walk straight ahead. So ideally, your feet need to be pointed straight ahead, but without you thinking about it. So you would say to me, well, I can just turn my feet straight. Well, your hips are turning your feet out, and you consciously turn your foot in, and then your knee is in the middle of that, playing tug-of-war with which way it wants to go, and then you end up with knee problems. So I would rather have you do the exercises, which will automatically align your feet. And you didn't see this, and I didn't point them out to you. But after I gave you that one exercise, you stood up and said, yeah, I still feel like my weight's on my right side. I'm not even worried about that. That's your self-discovery. What I'm really worried about is me looking at your foot going, wow, look how much straighter his feet are compared to where they were before. I saw 45 degrees go to 20 to 15 degrees. That's a big deal for me as the person who's trying to find if the exercise was effective for you. Then I put you in that other position. You said, yeah, I'm not fighting as hard to stay as vertical, with my feet turned in like this, because we went through another exercise, right? And that's what I was looking for, was you to realize it, not just me as the quote-unquote expert telling you that you're better. It's about self-discovery with each person. And if healthcare could switch over to client-driven therapy, client-driven medicine, we're better as a country.
Well, that's a whole different discussion on the
Yeah.
healthcare system of the United States of America today. So it sounds like to me, Egoscue is university, and the Egoscue method is really whether you're 10 years old getting into athletics or you're 9. We were talking about my father who's 89 years old. There's exercises for both of the spectrums.
Absolutely. My oldest client that I've ever worked on was 94. I told you this before. His name's Albert, good friend of ours. And his favorite thing was, he was playing golf now, walking golf, 9 holes a day. That's all he could play. But prior to coming in, he couldn't play at all. It wasn't about saying, Albert, we're going to take your pain away. That's not it. You got to give this guy a reason to keep living at 94, because he's thinking, I'm degenerative, my body's shutting down, here comes the door and it's going to be closed pretty soon. Well, what we said was, well, what if you could play golf? Well, I'd love to be able to play golf again, right? That's how he kind of talks. And I said, okay, well, great. We'll get you back to playing golf, no problem. Now, that's a big statement to a guy who's 94. Now I'm either the zero or the hero if it doesn't pay off in the end. So I have to...
But you gave him something to shoot for. You gave him a goal.
Yes. And something that he instantly guaranteed. He got a picture of himself playing at Pebble Beach 25 years ago, or playing at Torrey Pines or something 25 years ago, and says, boy, I'd like to get back there. But it wasn't that. When his pain started disappearing, he played golf, he played golf, he played golf. His son was in tears one day telling me this, and I said, Albert, are you stoked you're playing golf? Like, you feel so much better. He said,
and
no,
his son is 70, by the way.
Yes, exactly. He said, no, I'm more stoked that I'm off of Metamucil. His bodily function started to come back. His pelvis is the seat for his intestine. 32 feet of intestine have to work correctly. And this guy got his peristalsis back because it's a muscular movement. And I know many people listening are probably going, wow, I'd love to have that back.
You know, I'm so fascinated by this. I just think there's so much, there's too much doctors, God love them, they're just giving out that, medicine, those pills, way too much. And there's so much that could be done holistically. I mean, is that the right word for Egoscue? Or
yeah, like it was, we've been doing this for so long, since 71. I've been there since
long before that word
91.
was a trendy word. Right?
Yeah.
Well, Brian, we must take a very brief commercial timeout. Stay tuned, learn a lot more about how to make your body work for you. Stay tuned, ESPN 1700.